Do you want to come face to face with the composite result of 2.5 million years of the drama of human consciousness on the planet? Then take a good look in the mirror. From the primordial emergence of humanity to that reflection before you right now is a drama that includes the story of Homo habilis and its cosmological concern for killing animals for food, or Homo erectus's controlled use of fire and social organization, of pro-magnon human beings who work together to paint elaborate scenes of the cosmos, plant and animal life both, in the caves of southwestern France and Spain. You see, you right there are the offspring of all of this effort, with untold stories of heartbreak and triumph throughout. You are connected to these stories, and these stories are deeply ingrained and connected to the human need to create ever new ways of seeing ourselves in the cosmos. And there is no better example of this, of seeing ourselves within the cosmos, of how we understand human meaning making and response, than in consideration of Lego blocks. Lego blocks, like the greater quest for human being toward coherent systems of thought, have one thing in common with the human quest. They are both, not unlike prefabricated bricks, meant to be a specific constructive need for our lives. Legos, you see, are more than a toy. They're a metaphor. They're colorful, trustable, recognizable, predictable, and calculable. They are ubiquitous around the world. You know, when you're looking at a Lego block and there's memory associated with it, perhaps from your childhood. And yet in the 1990s, Lego stock began a precipitous decline, falling. What was the problem? Well, overall, they no longer captured the human imagination. Why? Well, because thematic Lego sets were almost entirely assembled in the box, ready-made. It's like baking a homemade cookies or cake from the box. In one sense, they are homemade, and yet in another sense, when every home is making the same cookies and they all taste the same in every home, well, they're not really homemade in any specific sense. A similar tale is true of Legos. Popular for years, suddenly in the 1990s, there appeared to be a lack of creative ingenuity for thinking outside of the box when it came to Legos. The result is that millions of human beings who liked to build with Legos in order to construct narratives revolted against the external, prescribed, and prefabricated systems for doing so. Now, as a result, in the 1990s, an architect from Chicago had had enough. He deconstructed these prefabricated Lego building sets, put the older maps aside, and created new structures according to his own blueprint, even as we must see how his new map was based on tremendous experience in and of itself that he brought. He constructed precise models of the Sears Tower, of the Hancock Tower, and of others. He built a roller coaster. His human response to established systems of thought, like any explorer, his values for reimagining the human construction, albeit through the instrument of Lego blocks in this example, those values appear to be the following. First, translate the reconnection of Lego pieces for our moment, bringing them from an older narrative in order to recreate them into a newer narrative. The box says it was a bridge, but I made the Sears Tower, so there. Second, encourage the imagination for novel ideas and new developments. Do this by overcoming fear and inviting wonder as a possibility for new construction. Third, he seemed to welcome fearless integration over enclosed systems. May provide the same kinds of questions, allow us to integrate narrative for today. And fourth, appreciate beautiful complexity. Even the Death Star, a model of the Death Star was indeed made and sent to Lego, can be beautiful in its complexity. Following the architect's lead, at Lego, the global response for responding to fixed bricks of systems was overwhelming. International Office of Legos in Europe received planets, Death Stars, a full set of Rivendor from Tolkien's Fellowship of the Ring, and more. A cross-cultural response revealed a public hunger that began with a prefabricated part in a doctrinal discipline that morphed into a post-structuralist evolution of new parts. New loves for narrative, novel communities that sprung up or emerged and used many of the same parts but in different ways. What was the common feature or denominator between these varied cross-cultural constructions? which reveals something quite specific about our quest for human purpose. The answer: they all recognized that the deep need to create is a singularly shared human love and is part of the ontology, that is the fundamental structure, of our human nature. Now, moving on from Legos, let's apply this need to share, to create as a part of our human ontology. Let's apply this to genomics. Genomics. You see, you, like all of the material that composes the physical form that you are, you represent a very long genetic journey over millennia upon millennia. In the 1990s, we paid billions as a world to get the sequence of this human genome. In work with theoretical physicists, we studied variations of people and disease patterns in different groups around the world. We also focused specifically on the genomic sequence. The genomist that I know will discuss the human genome as an information superhighway communication that predates all of us. It goes way, way back into history. And yet, stop for a moment and look at your hands. Look at the structural delicacy of your fingertips and the utility of your knuckles, of the capacity to grasp in and of itself, of an opposable thumb, of the capacity to hold or to embrace or to climb or to fight. Your body, which belongs to you, is also at the point of an evolutionary process that is still unfolding into the future long after we're gone. But as a genomist friend of mine recently told an audience, the genome is the most exquisite, sophisticated information and communication system known to human beings. And each genome is all the information for making all of the parts of the body and putting them together in working order, with the information therein where it's timed and tuned exquisitely. If the timing was off, your body would be untenable for life. A most exquisite system. She noted to me, this colleague of mine, this genomist, that we have satellites that are sophisticated with information systems, we know they are, but they're not living. So when we listen to physicists talk about the tuning of the universe, it doesn't really compare to the human genome. In like manner, the mathematical algorithms for artificial intelligence are, well, they're artificial, however interesting and engaging. Systems of living intelligence, that's what we're talking about. Our genome, as genomists are learning today, communicates with us in terms of the questions we all have about life itself. It's the most exciting time, probably no better time than right now, perhaps, to be alive, where we've sequenced the human genome and we have a resource for answering our heart's questions about who we are, our identity, and where we come from. For instance, when we sequenced the human genome, we found that less than 0.1% of our total genomic inheritance counts for all of the superficial differences that we see among ourselves. Those superficial differences include hair color, skin color, and the like. Society constructs a narrative of race and difference as though that 0.1% is all that matters for differentiating lines or borders between us. But in the scheme of over 2.5 million years, in terms of biohistory, this is superficial in our genomic memory. If we look at the amount of sequence that makes proteins the workhorse of our body, that's less than 2%. So what is it to be human? How do you answer this question if you have to take into consideration that 97% of your genomic inheritance is not directly involved in making the parts of the body? Consider, for instance, that I'm standing on a dock and I'm looking at a ship only to discover that 97% of the ship is necessary for the regulatory system, certainly, but the reason it is a ship at all only configures to 3% of its substance. That's compelling, isn't it? I'd like you to remember that the human response to mystery and our being in the world is not merely an intellectual enterprise. That the mystery, as though it's just out there, wholly external to us. No, the mystery is right here in your beating heart, in your body. In theology, we term the quest for our humanity theological anthropology. That is, what is the human being amidst the mystery of the cosmos? And we have scriptures, science, theories of human evolution, poetry and prose, genomics, and more. All of this tells us part of the story of our humanity. In this module, I've asked you to trace the evolution of the human being in three distinct ways. First, In the Swim and Berry text, titled Human Emergence in the Universe Story, we trace the narrative of our human meaning making. I've chosen this text because these authors care about the biological evolution alongside our advance in thinking in spiritual cognition. Second, I've asked you to read Gordon Kaufman, tracing from spiritual consciousness to the concept of God within a theocentric, that is, God-centered worldview. Kaufman will discuss the human response of faith in this God-centered worldview as the ultimate claim on mystery. Kaufman will discuss how, from the beginning of the human stance toward God and the gods, it's been one of faith. Now, consider this. Millennia of claims of faith are never reducible to the projection of human fantasy on the cosmos. Human faith isn't as ethereal as cotton candy. Instead, if we take it seriously as a part of the human response, then we see faith as a complicated array of affirmations of beliefs that span the ages, deep into oral history. It's interesting that in our own world today, human beings may wonder whether we still need the gods at all. Now, faith is a very old human response to mystery in the cosmos, and not something to be taken lightly. And third, in this module, I've asked you to dive into the later evolution of human spirituality and meaning by reading the work of the popular thinker Stephen Mackintosh and how we interpret new developments in human spirituality today. With these three in mind, this module is an intensive look at the biohistorical and biospiritual evolution of our humanity. Yeah, and of the human response to the mystery of, well, everything. If you keep this in mind as you read, beginning in the order I've noted above, you'll do well in integrating this meaning into a larger picture. Again, the module is dedicated to the human response to the mystery of the cosmos in three foci: the mystery of our biohistorical evolution in the cosmos, how we understand the nature of faith as a direct response to the cosmos, and the emergence of spirituality throughout. If we integrate some of what we'll learn in this module, consider the following. Related to the nature of prayer. Every time I bring my hands together to pray, I'm focusing millions of years of evolutionary advancement in history into a single relational petition to God and the cosmos, to God, the gods themselves. Think of this when you're joining your hands with yourself or with others in an act of faith in the world. Finally, I want to give you some instruction on the stellar observation. The philosopher Ludwig Feuerbach, who lived from 1804 to 1872, and who in his groundbreaking text, The Essence of Christianity, provided a critique of our human response to mystery, and it's important to note this in this particular module. Feuerbach believed that human beings exhibit this tendency to project our own image into the cosmos in order to make the universe around us more friendly, more palatable, less fearful, more safe or secure. Think of the early naval explorers in the world who used these even earlier cartographical charts of the sea. These maps are notorious for labeling areas of the world with a broad swath, "There be monsters." Monsters, not just the unknown. This means that these early maps were a mythopoetic construction of the other and of otherness out there and to be feared. Likewise, we also tend to anthropomorphize, that is to say, to mirror and to project our own image into the universe. Arctic explorers named mountains and wham, suddenly they appeared more familiar. In short, there's something about putting our image on the universe that helps us feel safe, and where we don't see our image, we see the world or the cosmos as potentially hostile. What does this suggest about the human response to mystery? I'm demonstrating this anthropomorphic tendency from the stellar observation titled Pluto and its Moons, A Love Story. And I'm asking you to describe the anthropomorphic features so evident in this video. Have a very good module. Be in contact or conversation with me if you have any questions. I continue to read your stellar observations. They're all very, very good. And I look forward to seeing you this week.